Hola chamas y chamos, welcome back to Álvaro Dev Labs. A year ago I launched a video about getting started with Vite. A lot of time has passed from that video and it's only fair that I update the content, especially because now we are working with Vite version 3. This video is sponsored by Storyblok. For those of you that don't know what Vite is, it's just basically a modern build tool that aims to provide a faster and leaner developer experience for modern web projects. In a nutshell, it makes the whole developer experience more enjoyable. It was created by Evan Yu, the same creator of Vue, and is backed up by an amazing community. Vite is a word in French for fast, and yes, Vite is like the Eminem of the front-end build tools. I remember I was messing around in Twitter like always, losing my time, and I saw a tweet of Evan before he goes to bed. He had this great idea of creating something like a dev server on top of native ESM modules. And that was basically the start of everything. You know, like ourselves, the mortals, we normally go before bed traumatized by the bug that we had in production that day. But Evan Yu created a new thing for the web development. So what makes Vite so special? A difference from other build tools, what Vite does is that it delivers a dev server over native ESM modules. And also it provides a build system based on rollup. So this is really powerful because normally other bundlers like Webpack take too long to do the hot module replacement because they need to build everything every time there is a change, when Vite does it in a different way. Provides then these kind of features like a server starts in less than 300 milliseconds, which is crazy fast. And also hot module replacement, where I think it shines the best, is on less than 100 milliseconds every time you do a change. And this is especially important when you have a big application with a lot of modules, components, and code. That with Webpack, it used to be really slow to do a change and there's a way for the whole build system to go again. While with Vite, it doesn't matter how big is your application, it's always going to maintain a good performance. On top of offering an instant server start and a crazy fast hot module replacement, Vite is full of cool features that are there by default. Like out-of-the-box support for TypeScript in the code and also in the APIs, support for preprocessor for CSS such as Sass, an optimized build based on rollup, so it's pre-configured for you. You can use universal plugins for rollup and Vite as well, and you have a really good documented plugin API, so you can extend your Vite functionality. Enough theory, let's go for the practical part. I have my terminal here open and we are going to create a new Vite application from scratch. So if you go to the web page of Vite, you're going to see that it has a creation command for npm, for yarn, and pnpm. Okay, so we're going to use the one that you decide. In my case, I'm going to use pnpm create Vite. Okay. And if I click enter, it's gonna prompt what is the name of the product that I want to make. So I'm going to call it ViteFast. And this is the cool part about Vite, that is completely framework agnostic. That means that you can use your favorite framework with Vite. You can use vanilla JavaScript or TypeScript. You can use Vue, React, Preact, Lit, and Svelte. So that's something that I love about Vite, that it gives a common ground to every framework to perform better, even better than the Create app, that the Vue CLI and stuff. I'm going to do a separate video showing how you can create a Vue, React, and Svelte application using Vite. For now, let's use vanilla TypeScript. Okay. So after you select it, it's going to ask you if you want JavaScript, TypeScript, and nowadays it makes more sense to use TypeScript. So let's open it in VS Code. To that, I'm going to do code ViteFast. After you installed the packages using pnpm install or npm yarn, whatever you decide, you're going to have this structure of an application. So it's pretty minimal, so it makes it really progressive to go. It has a tsconfig if you decide to use the TypeScript one with all the configuration right away. It has an index HTML that contains our scaffold or layout, okay? So it already has a script of type module that is going to call for the main TS. And this is something that at the beginning I was fascinated about, because normally you will need to have the main JS one there and stuff, and it works right away with the, like importing the TypeScript one, right? Also here in the source, you're gonna have a small code that is gonna inject something in between the app with the inner HTML. Since we use the vanilla one, it's not using any framework, so it's using just basically JavaScript to inject something in the DOM, okay? We have a style CSS that easily we could change it for a SAS one or SCSS. It's funny about this one, TypeScript SVG, I don't know why, probably something that is used inside. And we have a little function that works like a composable in here. If we go to the package.json, we're gonna see that it's a type module and that we have 3 scripts by default. One is Vite, like the Vite server. Then we have something to build, so it's gonna do the TypeScript compiling and then build it, and a preview. Now let's open the terminal by using Command G, and here we are going to do npm run dev. That is going to be this script right here. If you press enter, it's going to tell you the version of it. In this moment, we're using the 3.1.8, and look how fast it was cold start. Okay, it's 172 milliseconds. Of course, this is just TypeScript code, no more than that, and it's going to be pretty fast. So if we go to the browser, we're gonna see that we have our application right there, okay? With it looks kind of cool. They updated the scaffolding once and added the same gradient that they have in the documentation. Really nice. If I click here, the count is gonna change, and let's do a small change to demonstrate how fast it is. So awesome count is this. So it already reload, and look how fast it's updated in your browser, right? It doesn't give me a chance to actually see the change between sliding from one side to another. So this is the pretty basic configuration. Let's tweak a little bit and see what we can do with Vite. Now let's see how we can tweak the configuration of our Vite application. So the way of doing it is creating under here, under the root folder, a vite.config.ts. And inside of here, we're gonna export default define config, and we're gonna open an object here, right? So we probably need to import this, and this is gonna be import from Vite itself. So define config from Vite, and here we can start doing things. So now let's see some of the shared options that the Vite config provides by default. So one of them is going to be the base. The base is really important because it allows you to define what is the public path for your production application to be served. So you're going to commonly see this. So env node environment, and this is production. You can define here the route in the server that you are hosting this, where it needs to be served. Normally for development it's the public route right here, but you can tweak that if you like. Another thing that you're gonna use really often is the public dir, okay? And I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but Vite comes with default with a public directory. This public directory is where all the static assets are served. So every time we use a logo, an icon, we can serve it from here statically, and it's gonna be appearing on our application. If we want to have another one, for example, a static, another directory, we can change it here to static, and that will be it. It will treat it as the default static directory. Another thing that I use often is to create aliases to import things, to stop using relative imports and use absolute ones. So in aliases, we can create some aliases. So in this case, I'm going to create one for this. And it's important that you add this before the add, because most of the modules nowadays have an add, like add Vite, add I don't know, 3S and stuff to define a monorepo. So there is more common often that the modules has this. So to not mess it up with the node modules, put a prefix before. We're gonna use a library that I use often for defining the dir names. So I'm gonna use Pathe. Okay, I already installed it. And we are gonna say here resolve like this, the dir name, and we're gonna resolve to source. Okay, we're gonna save it. And now here in control and main TS, for example, let's change the relative one for this one. Okay, so if we keep save and we run again our dev environment, we're gonna see that it continues working because we successfully create an alias here. Let's do another one, which is going to import this logo. Okay, and if we do that, now all of our inputs are absolute instead of relative. So it's easy to share, for example. I'm not gonna cover them all, but here in the documentation you can check all the different shared options that you have. This is the one that we were commenting, like base. Here you have the mode. It could be you can create a different config for dev and production, for example, if you like, depending on your process, environment, variables, and stuff. You have the plugins. We are gonna check that one later. Also, you have the public directory, cache directory, resolve alias, which we already use, and some more. Okay. Now let's go for the dev server ones. So here we can see that there are different kind of options. Okay, there are really nice categorized here in the documentation. And let's take a look of this one, the server one, because this is the one that affects how the dev server works, right? And here you can see one for the host, so you can define a different one from localhost. But I'm not gonna use that one. I'm going to just tweak the server port, which by default is 5173, but we can put something else, right? So I'm gonna just close here, and I'm gonna go to our Vite config right away, and probably here, let's create a server one, comma, okay? So server, and let's put port, I don't know, like this. I don't know, like this, because we are rebels. So let's save, let's open the terminal and run it again. Now we're gonna see that we successfully changed the port. There are tons of different things here. We can also set the dev server to be secure, to use HTTPS. For that, you will need a plugin that is basically a certificate to be able to use it. I normally use it for applications that I do. Here you can create proxies, for example, which is pretty handy, and create a map in here. Also, you can configure it, cores, headers, hot module replacement, which is kind of cool. How you watch your files, for example, if you want to ignore some of the things, for example, any change that you do in the node modules, let's say you're doing one. I never see that use case, but okay, let's say you want to ignore a directory that you're working on. You don't want to trigger a hot module replacement every time you touch it. You can add it here in server watch ignore. And a lot of more stuff, cool stuff here, like middleware and stuff. Okay, so take a look at the documentation. I'm gonna put it on the description below. Now let's jump to the build part. Okay, let's say our application is finished. We want to build for production, right? So let's close here our dev environment, okay? And let's use pnpm run, and we're gonna do build. Okay, so in this case, it's gonna do the TypeScript one first. And right now we can see actually that we have an issue with counter because it cannot find the type declarations. Okay, so I'm going to basically ignore this by putting the this one. Let's do it correctly. If you want to remove this issue, you go here to the ts config, okay, and I think there was an option for aliases, which I don't remember. So let me check real quick in another project. So you can define here path, okay, like this, and supposedly should work. So let's try again. You forget to add, yeah, most probably I forgot, yes. Let's try it again, maybe. Oh yeah. So it went really quick because of course it's a really small application, but you can see here that it says build for production. So it takes 6 of the modules that we're gonna use and automatically create the bundles for it. So we have an index.js, which is our final JavaScript bundle. And we have one for the CSS. So if we go here to dist, we're gonna see that now we have an index.html. And this index.html is gonna be really like this one, but it's gonna have a new script, okay, of type module, but in this case it's aiming to the corresponding assets. So everything that is gonna be imported here in your HTML, like the CSS, the JavaScript, different bundles, is gonna be here, okay? Then we have one for the styles, which is a link relation to the style sheet, and it's gonna import this here. Because we use, you remember here in the Vite config, we use this Vite TS. You can see here that automatically set it to get the assets. So in this case, it's gonna fail unless here inside we create Vite TS, okay, and we put the assets inside. Okay, that's the only way it's gonna work. How we can check that it works? You can use several things to open the index.html in the this folder, but I'm gonna use, I think it's called preview. So it comes with a preview. So we can see here our application just built. Okay, how we can check that is the build version, and oh yeah, it's trying to serve everything from here. You can see the Vite SVG. That's why it doesn't have the favicon. So it's trying to get this one here. Let's put it inside and see what happens. Okay, so we have it right here. Okay, and how we can check that is the build version? Well, let's go to the network tab. Let's refresh and see the localhost. So here in the localhost, we will see that it's important this one here, which is the correct HTML with the production code. Now I want to show you something more advanced on the Vite configuration, is that you can use Vite to create your own libraries. Okay, so it has a build live mode, which is really powerful, and it's the one that I use, for example, for my UI component library for my own projects. I have it here, the Vite config, and yeah, it has a lot of stuff, okay, but let's focus here on the build option. So inside of it, you can define a live property, and then Vite is gonna assume that you are creating a library, okay? And here you can basically say the name of your library, how you want it to be named, whenever the file is compiled, what extensions does it have, how to watch for changes on the source to create another time the build and stuff when you use build watch. And let's take a look at how the prompt looks like whenever we go. So I'm going to open the packages. I have them on a repo, okay? So I'm gonna go to packages UI here. I'm gonna close the left side, and I'm going to use anr build. Okay, and what this is gonna do is it's gonna do a view TCS because I'm using view in this case, and it's gonna create the declaration files for the library and stuff, and now it's building for production. So it's gonna create a UMD for CommonJS, and it's going to create a ESM bundle here. So this is basically my library for my buttons, my UI components on my web page. Okay, if we go here to UI and to dist, you're gonna see here that it creates these two bundles that are the ones that then are packaged to npm. If you want to learn how to do this, please let me know in the comments if you're interested in a solo tutorial about creating plugins with Vite, because I think it's a really interesting tool to create your own libraries. So before we jump in one of the most important topics about Vite, which is the plugin API, some words from our sponsors that make possible this channel. Looking for a CMS solution that is great both for marketing teams and developers? Look no further. Storyblok is the headless CMS solutions that you always wanted to have. See how easy it is to change content for your website with a real-time visual editor, creating a delightful customer experience for your teams. Go from a content update to production in no time. Storyblok is easily integrable with multiple tech stacks, making your dev team's life easier. Go and try it for free at storyblok.com. Okay, before we go to the plugins, and I promise you this is the last time I'm saying that, I want to show you something. So you remember I told you that using Sass it was pretty straightforward, because in times of Webpack, I remember every time we needed to use a preprocessor, it was a pain. You needed to use a bunch of different loaders, like a style loader, like a Sass loader, and then pipe them in a different order to get the result. I mean, a name. Okay, look how easy it is to do it with Vite. Basically, you go here, change the extension. Of course, you will need to update the main TS. And if we go here, we're gonna see that it's throwing a warning, meaning that we don't have the dependency Sass. So let's install it, right? So let's go here. Let's stop the dev server and just use ni Sass and install it like a development tool, like a development package. So enter, and let's run again our dev environment, and voila, it is working right away. Okay, now let's talk about the plugins. And this is one of the parts that I love the most about Vite, because it's really extendable and it has a lot of cool features out there from the community that provides new functionality. So we are gonna test one that I found that I think is pretty cool. So we have our plugins property here in the define config, and it's an array, so you can pass several of them. And we are going to install one that is called Vite Plugin QR code. Okay, and we are going to save it as a development package. So now that we install it, let's go to our config right here. And basically we will need to call it as a function, because all Vite plugins are functions, and you can pass the options through here. So let's start to see how it works. It says in the documentation that you need to use dev and then the host flag. And here it creates a QR code in the VS Code console to easily open with your mobile application. To easily open with your mobile. That's pretty awesome. And of course, this is a silly one, but there are a bunch of them that you can use also for the build part. Maybe I can show you here the project that I was showing you before. So I have one for Vue. In case do you want to use Vue, React, or any of the frameworks, you will have a specific plugins for it. Then I have one for the declaration files, TypeScript. I have one for CSS, one for SVG loader, and I have one that automatically generates a banner based on my package.json. This is especially cool for the library because it gives something like this. Let me go to this folder. So it creates like a banner where you can set the version, the name of the library, the author, the description, and so on. So this is why it's so magic. And that's pretty much for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please drop a like and subscribe. It means a lot for this channel, and also you will get updated content from Vite, Vue, Nuxt, you name it. If you have any questions about this tutorial, Vite in general, feel free to fill all the comment section with your questions and we'll try my best to answer them. Also, you can contact me in my Twitter, it's down there in the description. See you in the next one. Happy coding!